Drew Barrymore comes from a remarkable lineage, a remarkable line of actors on both sides of her family. She has actors in her family who date back to the 1400s. Her great-aunt Ethel Barrymore is widely considered one of the greatest actors of the 20th century, as well as her grandfather, John Barrymore, and her great-uncle, Lionel Barrymore, as well, was a remarkably famous character actor.
Yet her parents didn't really provide her the support she wanted, and she was on her own by 15. What type of family did the movie crews become for her?
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't really realize just kind of the remarkable backstory of how Drew Barrymore got to where she is today. I mean, she went through things which many child stars have not survived from. You know, she became famous at the age of 6 and 7 when she was in the movie E.T., had a level of celebrity at a very young age that a lot of people simply can't handle. She got involved in drug abuse and alcohol, ended up in rehab, and then ended up really taking over and taking control of her own life. Her own parents, her father struggled with drugs and alcohol his entire life. She felt her mom, who was at times her manager, wasn't kind of the parental authority that gave her a sense of discipline and responsibility. So she really set about creating her own family, and she discovered that on movie sets there was a kind of a family environment, and that really became her family and what she craved as an adult.
She did really hit rock bottom as a young actress. What do you think allowed her a second chance in the industry?
You know, Drew Barrymore, you know, at 15 was considered by some people in the movie industry washed up. She'd just gotten out of rehab. She'd emancipated herself from her parents. She was working in a coffee shop. You know, the future did not necessarily look bright from an outsider's perspective. But, you know, she has a real drive, and she's had that since she was a little child, and a real love of acting. And she missed being on movie sets. She missed the impromptu families that are created on those sets. And she just started auditioning. You know, she had agents who were telling her she was overweight, but she just kept going out on auditions, and she started doing some TV movies and some low-budget films and kind of won audiences back. And she has this remarkable, Steven Spielberg calls it, you know, says that she casts a spell. And there are a lot of people who may not like the movies that Drew Barrymore has made from time to time, think she's been in a bad movie or two. But even though those people often, even though those movie reviewers often end up rooting for Drew Barrymore. So she's got something that audiences really kind of relate to, I think, and get behind. And she's a very genuine person that comes across, I think, on the screen.
How about in person? You've interviewed dozens of A-list celebs. Anything you notice about her that's unique in person?
What's unique about Drew Barrymore, I think, for a celebrity certainly of her, you know, stature, the amount of attention she gets, is she's remarkably down to earth, and she's there's not a great, you know, there's not some huge line between what you see on screen and who she is in real life. You know, she's incredibly accessible both on screen and off. And you know, there's that famous incident where she jumped up on David Letterman's desk and kind of, you know, lifted up her top and flashed David Letterman. That was back in 1995. And that really kind of shows you there's a real side to Drew, which is kind of this wild child, free spirit. And at the same time, she, you know, runs a production company. She's a real power in Hollywood. She's now just directed her first film. So she's an interesting mix of sort of wild child and yet also incredibly responsible and disciplined. And, you know, I think that comes across in the piece.